Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy Monday. I am joined today by Matthew Marsden, BlazeTV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire, along with Logan Hall, of course, Blaze Media's digital strategist. We are keeping it all in the family today here on Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Did you guys see that the Pennsylvania governor's mansion was set on fire over the weekend? Look at that.
I bet it was MAGA. I bet it was MAGA, those hateful MAGA people.
About that. So we do know who it is. Let's get into it. The man accused of setting fire to the Pennsylvania governor's mansion yesterday has confessed to targeting Governor Josh Shapiro, admitting that he, quote, harbored hatred towards Shapiro. You think? Admitted that he knew his family might be inside. Shapiro's family might be inside at the time of attack because it was, in the middle of the night, and decided to do it anyway. So this is Cody Balmer, 38 years old, of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he turned himself in to Pennsylvania State Police shortly after the fire early yesterday morning, at which point he admitted to creating homemade Molotov cocktails using gasoline and Heineken bottles, walking an hour just to get to the governor's mansion, scaling a perimeter fence, breaking windows with a hammer, throwing the Molotovs inside as well. And so, of course, this was during the night. And so Governor Shapiro, his wife, his children, they were all inside the house celebrating the first night of Passover and evacuated safely. But you're seeing all of this, like clearly the house has quite the damage from all of this fire. And so he is now currently being held in prison, facing charges of attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, assault on a public official. And I want to play President Trump, who I guess has been briefed at this. And I want to listen. Later on, I do want to talk about his meeting with the El Salvador president. We will get into that. But during his visit, he was asked about this attacker, and here's what he had to say. Watch.
The attacker was not a fan of Trump, I understand, just from what I read and from what I've been told. The attacker basically wasn't a fan of anybody. It's probably just a whack job. And certainly a thing like that cannot be allowed to happen.
President Trump gives more grace than I would when it comes to things like this, because a bunch of social media posts suggested that he harbored far left opinions and had disdain, they say, for both major political parties. Let me give you a Facebook post here from 4 years ago. He said, "I'm a registered socialist, so I had gotten about 27 mail-in ballots." He also shared posts supporting Black Lives Matter. So to answer your question, Matt, no. Not a MAGA extremist. Nope.
I am
Nope.
so shocked that it was a lefty.
Isn't that?
So shocked.
It's always the far right extremists, always. So this is crazy. This is news to me that the left would be violent.
Shocker.
I know. Show me your shocked face, Logan.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing this for a while. They've been ginning up their supporters to... They've sort of been giving blanket permission. They've been saying, "Oh well, Elon is the co-president. They're Nazis. They're fascists." And then they say, "Well, they condemn the violence in the slightest way possible." They say, "Well, we condemn all violence. We can't have any of these people attacking Tesla dealerships, yada yada." But then they go back immediately to saying, "Oh, that we're living under a dictatorship. We're transitioning to fascism. This is the new KKK, whatever else." I've been saying this for a while. The Antifa networks and all of the domestic terrorism networks that we saw in 2020 during BLM, they never really went away. They're still there, like rats back in the sewer. They still are there waiting to be activated. And we've seen a little bit of a resurgence in recent weeks with the attacks on the Tesla dealerships and sort of the amping up of this rhetoric. But again, you have to crush these things. And like you said, Trump put it probably in the nicest way possible. I probably wouldn't have.
Or nicer than I. Yep, I wouldn't have either. Because we're watching all of these things happen. We're watching, a man come try to shoot up an entire baseball field full of congressmen. It's time and time and time again. And so then on top of that, we're being completely gaslit by, of course, the CNNs and the MSNBCs of the world.
Yeah, there was an ABC post that went out on social media recently where they described this attack on the governor's mansion, and they said the attacker, a man who is known to be frustrated with Democrats, which makes it sound like it's it's MAGA, it's some right wing person.
You're not radical enough.
They're not going radical enough. That's why he's frustrated. He's like, you haven't gone far left enough. That's why he's upset with the Democrats, it turns out. But yet, be that as it may, you are still watching people like, I want to play the CNN clip here. The CNN commentator saying that most political violence comes from the right, actually, guys. Watch.
Nadine Seiler is a long-time progressive activist.
We've met before. I've seen you at protests in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Against Trump.
Yes.
Against January 6th, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Is accepting the violence that was committed against Brian Thompson.
America was founded on violence.
But by
America was founded. Make America great again. To when they came and massacred the indigenous people, millions and millions of indigenous people.
But by supporting the murder of a healthcare CEO, doesn't that make your side as culpable?
I don't hear them condemning the Proud Boys, who he said stand by, whatever they start. Once they start condemning them, then I will reassess. But until then, no, I'm not reassessing.
Yeah.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
And while America's roots are soaked in bloodshed, violence in the country today is mostly from right-wing extremism. From Oklahoma City to Charlottesville to January 6th.
Oklahoma City.
There is simply no equivalent.
What year did that? He has to go so far back. Yeah, it was in the 90s. I can't remember exactly what. Let's see. But that he has to go that far back. 95.
Yeah.
That far back.
Yeah.
And then the Charlottesville thing. What was it? The one woman who, by the way, shouldn't have happened. But Charlottesville V2 version 2 was like 5 people gathered in at a street corner trying to pretend like this was this big group. And then we all know all of the lies that are the January 6th quote insurrection that never quite was. And so you have this commentator. By the way, those of you who are listening on audio podcasts, I should point out the woman that he was interviewing that you heard speaking was wearing a Luigi hat from Mario and Luigi. Yeah, that says Cougars for Luigi is her shirt. Yeah. And she's wearing a Luigi hat from Mario and Luigi to show her support for Luigi. There she is, Luigi Mangione, who, of course, assassinated the United Healthcare CEO in cold blood.
It's very important to make this distinction. So leftists are totally okay with violence when you are going and assassinating someone in cold blood on the street for little to no reason that you've never met before. They're totally fine with that. They're not okay with you, the frontiersmen, the American founders, going and warring with native tribes who were attacking us as well. It wasn't like they were these peaceful indigenous peoples. They were savages. They were called savages because what they were doing was savagery. If I'm reading a book right now, I'm sorry to get off on a tangent about this.
No, it's an important point.
I'm reading a book right now on Daniel Boone and the First Frontier. They ripped off Daniel Boone's son's fingernails, his toenails, then scalped his son and beat his head in with a club. These are not like peaceful people. So we are okay. We also need to make this important point that there are legitimate uses of violence and there are not legitimate uses of violence. If your violence is backed by moral grounding, which is, every country that's ever existed in civilization is founded on violence.
Yeah.
The state, the government exists because it has it's supposed to have a legitimate monopoly on the use of violence. So you don't just have people taking matters into their own hands, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So the left is totally okay with violence. It's just their form of terrorism and the state killing off. They're totally fine with communist regimes killing off. These are Che Guevara fans. They are Mao fans. They love communist China. They're totally fine with violence only if it's directed at their enemies. It's never when it's supposed to, restore order or balance to a society.
Yeah, Matt, I completely agree with you, Logan. Two things. Number one, I thought the same thing you did.
Sorry,
when he
I went
said,
off on a tangent.
No. They're important points. I thought the same thing that you did, though, when he said, America is a country whose roots are founded with bloodshed. And it's like, name me one country whose roots do not include bloodshed. That's like the whole point of all, like that. Name me one. Could you name me one that did not include? It was a country that they all just came together, and it was all these different. Who discovered it? Were people already there? Were there? No, there were no fights. They just sang Kumbaya, and they came together, and they just worked it all out, and then they shook on it, and that was that. It's like that doesn't exist. And then to the point about the violence that is deemed okay with them, I saw a lot of people. Stupid people on social media at the time of this Luigi Mangione thing that had happened. And they were like, oh, conservatives praise Kyle Rittenhouse, but say Luigi Mangione is evil. And it's like, if you are conflating those two things, you are so retarded. I don't even, like, I can't even, it's not even worth the argument.
Well, they're now saying that the teenager who stabbed Austin Metcalf for no reason in Irving,
that was
Texas,
self-defense.
That was somehow self-defense.
Right.
So,
Bringing a knife where you shouldn't have it, reaching into your bag, and escalating an interaction, and then being like, he touched my backpack, I had to stab him in the heart. Yeah, that's not self-defense.
Well, as the resident immigrant on the panel, like, just two things. Firstly, America was founded on a war against Great Britain. I hate to tell you, that was a bunch of white people that they were fighting against, right? That's the first thing. And secondly,
the Native Americans fought the Native Americans before the tribes fought each other.
They were killing each other.
Right. That's all.
It's
all in
so
history.
absurd. It's so absurd. And I mean, this is what Mel Gibson does in Apocalypto, right? Like, he shows the brutality of what was going on in, I think it was the Incans, right, or the Aztecs. And then along come the conquistadors from Spain.
Restore a little bit of order.
And it's like, hang on a second, you guys were throwing babies down steps, before we came here. But secondly, when are we going to have an effective immigration system that actually gets rid of the bad people that come in? Because I don't know. I am an actor, so I do know about accents, but that woman's accent was certainly not a Bostonian one, and it wasn't from Queens either. So we've got to stop importing people that hate this country. We've got to stop it.
Sounds simple enough, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. It really does. So you have this, curiously enough, the mainstream, the legacy media that's carrying the water for the Democrats for all of these decades, strangely silent on this firebombing of the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. And, I don't know, maybe it's because they love it.
This guy could probably go on to be a tenured university professor, a prominent Democrat politician. If you remember with the Weather Underground back in the day, a bunch of those people went on to be Democrat heroes. They went on to get positions at prominent universities. Democrats they will always love terrorism. They love violence. It's just when violence is used in a justified moral manner, that's when it's bad. If it's self-defense, that's when it's bad. If it's a kid in Wisconsin that's going and defending his community from being burned down by a bunch of freaks and mobs of left-wingers, that's when it's bad.
By the way, one of whom pointed a gun at him.
Yeah.
The other one was raising a skateboard about to beat him to death.
Yeah, and he randomly shot I don't know how many, he had 2 or 3 shots into just a random Democrat crowd, and he hit 2 pedophiles.
Isn't that crazy?
What are the odds of that?
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, don't ask for the answer for that. But I mean, this is the ridiculous thing about Kyle Rittenhouse. One of the things they were saying was he crossed over, he went. And I'm like, he went to defend some property from a baying mob that was wrecking everything.
10 minutes from his house. It was not like he
But it doesn't matter.
To cross the border to go get himself.
Sarah,
into
it
trouble.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Don't forget that this group was also saying defund the police. Okay, well, if you defund the police, guess what? You're going to get a bunch of badasses that are going to pick up guns, and they will take care of business.
Yeah, that's how vigilantes get empowered to begin with. Yeah, no, I know, I'm with you. So for this CNN guy, Donnie O'Sullivan, which isn't it rich? The irony is rich. Listening to this Irishman, try to criticize us on firebombings, Okay, buddy, I think you can sit this one out. But I want to play. He had this interview with Taylor Lorenz, and really, to both of y'all's point, I think used to they always embraced the violence, but they were a little bit more subdued about it. Now Taylor Lorenz is like giddy talking about this CEO being assassinated, and it's just really frightening to watch.
So you're going to see women, especially, that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome,
oh my God,
smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man.
Morally good man. Assassinated a stranger in cold blood.
Women will literally date an assassin before they swipe right on me. That's where we are. I'm sure you wouldn't like to be compared to a Trump supporter, but some of how people cannot understand why people have sympathies for Mangione strikes me as the same as a lot of media not understanding why people support Trump.
I totally agree.
It's because a lot of people are just really, really desperate.
They want somebody to take on the system. They want somebody to tear down these barbaric establishment institutions.
And yet, the people who went and walked all over the Capitol on January 6th are viewed by those same people right there as insurrectionists and evil and all of these things, but I didn't see them going out shooting people in the head in cold blood. They were simply, again, if you want to give anyone credit for addressing the system and going directly to the system, these people did that, didn't they? These people did that.
They didn't go burn down a Gucci store.
They didn't go and then loot it. Yeah, exactly.
A Nike store.
They took their grievances directly to the system, where their grievances to the people who their grievances were for. And it's just so rich to hear these blowhards. He just seems like a morally good man, and also really handsome and really smart. And they're not sending their best.
Yeah,
they're not sending their best.
These people are sick.
They really are.
Say this about this as well. I mean, they're hypocrites. Of course they are, because their ideology is not based on anything firm, which is why they should worry, because they can't control the lunatics that they're drumming up to get aggressive, because they'll just go to wherever the person is that they disagree with. But weren't these the people that told us to take vaccines? I thought they were against the system. But they were the ones that were telling us we had to take the COVID vaccine. But like, we're going to take down this authoritarian system. Do you mean like a system that forces people to inject their bodies with something? Do you mean like that system?
They love power. That's really they want to be able to commit the violence. No one else can.
Right.
No one can. No one else is allowed to, unless it's a communist revolutionary. This kid was so revolutionary. He's on the side of every major bank, billionaire, social movement that the Democrats and all of their corporate allies and their media support.
Yeah.
So that's the revolution. This is the new revolution. It'd be one thing, communists at least used to be like violent and go out in the jungle and be like guerrilla warfare against their enemies. These are our new communists. These are the most unimpressive losers I've ever seen.
Yep, I know.
But they utilize the system. So they utilize the system. They don't need to do that anymore because they get judges. They're very, very well funded, and they utilize the system against us. And it needs to end. And by the way, I was just thinking about this, Sarah. You haven't heard anything about banning guns recently, have you? Like, everything's gone really quiet about that.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Anyway.
Oh, curious. So I'm going to go ahead and guess, guys, that this story on the Pennsylvania governor's mansion being burned, I think it's going to go away real quick. I think it's going to go away real quick now that the details are coming out, and they can't argue for very much longer that he was frustrated with Democrats, as Logan said.
Why did he go for one particular Democrat? I think we all know why he went for one particular Democrat.
I don't know what you're talking about. Democrats love the Jews. Just ask Ilhan Omar. Anywho, make sure that you're subscribed to the show here on YouTube and hit the thumbs up. Yeah, that's right. Smash the like button, or you can gently tap it. We all appreciate a gentle tapping from time to time. Comment. It'll help us in the algorithm, which we all know is working against us, because we are celebrating our 2-year anniversary this month of being demonetized from YouTube. So I'm asking you to do something that's totally free. It's going to cost you $0 and it will help us out. All right, we've got to take a quick break, and then I want to get into President Trump's meeting with El Salvador's president. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you who live in constant pain and you're like, this is just my life now, and it kind of sucks, and I'm kind of grumpy, and I have less patience with my family. I know, I get it, because that was also me. I have a bunch of, prior back pain, neck pain from a car accident that I was in a long time ago. And so I was just living my life just in constant pain until I found Relief Factor. Relief Factor is an all-natural anti-inflammatory that actually gets to the root cause of your pain in your body, which is the inflammation. So whatever the case may be, knee pain, neck pain, back pain, try Relief Factor, that 3-week quick start. 70% of the people who order it keep on ordering it. That's how many people it's working for. So you can go get it at relieffactor.com. That is relieffactor.com. So President Trump just earlier this afternoon met with El Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele at the White House. And they just...
We're huge fans.
Yeah, he's great. They discussed kind of a whole plethora of things. I'm sure at the top of the conversation was, of course, all of the illegals that they are now housing for us in this supermax prison. So they had that going on. They have this latest Supreme Court decision on one in particular of those illegals, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who they said, the Supreme Court said that the U.S. we need to make a strong effort to have that MS-13 gang member return to American soil because he just so happens to be a father. And it's like, wow, I'm shocked. He must be the only gang member ever who may be irresponsibly going around impregnating women. I don't know. Maybe he's a father of like 10 kids with 10 different baby mamas. That would be crazy when we're talking about a gang member. Or raping. And so it's just been, I think they talked about our border. And so watching both presidents not just address each other, but address the mainstream media was really, really something. So I want to let me go through this quote here. He praised President Trump's approach to law enforcement, and he told him, "You have 350 million people to liberate by ending crime and terrorism," which is just freaking epic. And so then you have the fake news White House press corps who they're like, but what about Kilmar Abrego Garcia? He now is deported and he's in El Salvador. And are you going to return him to this country? Because we really want him back. We really like MS-13. They're really fun. Here is his response. Watch.
Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to have suggested that I smuggle terrorists into the United States, right?
It's always how
can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like if I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. We're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
They'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah,
they're sick. These are sick people.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie? There's more on that. I want to play President Trump's clash with Kate. Can we agree Caitlin Collins is the worst?
Oh,
she's just the worst. Here was, I would say she was put in her place. Here, watch.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
You look at Bukele there, you can tell he's smiling, he's smirking, he likes the interaction, he kind of wants to get in on it himself. And he kind of does at another point talking about why is the media not reporting your amazing wins at the border with all the border crossings down? Watch.
What they've done to us at the border should never and can never be forgotten. It's a sin what they did, and you are helping us out, and we appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you. Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. It has dropped, 95%? It's incredible.
As of this morning, 99%, 99.1% to be exact.
Why are those numbers not in the media?
Well, they get out with the fake news, like CNN over here doesn't want to put them out because they don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out because I think they hate our country, actually.
Show me the lie.
CNN after this went on to clarify. They said CNN obviously doesn't hate our country. But that's all they said. They didn't say, "Oh, we love America" or anything. They just said CNN obviously doesn't hate our country. I don't know. I'm pretty convinced that you guys do, actually, judging by everything I've seen out of them. We are huge fans of Bukele. Bukele is this wonderful politician from El Salvador who shatters all of these leftist narratives that crime and decay and filth are inevitable and that we have to live with our cities just as these crime-ridden hellholes full of drugs and gangbangers and illegal immigrants and terrorists. No. What Bukele did was he went in and arrested every criminal, every known criminal, all the gangs in El Salvador, put them in maximum security prisons, and boom, his country is now safe. How did this happen?
Fancy that.
How did this happen? Oh, you mean you can just lock up criminals and make your country safe and have normal law-abiding citizens enjoying their cities and their normal regular commutes to work and not have to worry about being raped or murdered? You mean that's possible? Because the Democrats would like you to feel, they want you so demoralized. They want you to feel that you cannot change these things, that you have to live with your entire country in a state of decay. You have to let criminals run rampant. You have to let criminals out of jail immediately. You have to have these Soros DAs that are weak on crime. No, if you're hard on crime, you can turn the most dangerous place in the world to the safest place on earth. And all you have to do is lock up criminals.
And he did it rather quickly.
Very quickly.
I mean, it was stunning how quickly he did it. And now, who was it? It was some social media influencer. I don't know how else to call him, but he was like, I just vacationed in El Salvador and it was beautiful. Yeah. It was beautiful.
It's super fast. I mean, people.
Crazy.
It was the murder capital of the world like 5 minutes ago. And as you say, shock horror, actually putting police out there and let them do their jobs and empowering them.
This is pretty basic stuff.
But to your point, this is how much we've been gaslit. But I do want to say something else, because if anyone can go back and watch that interaction, what you're missing there is Trump answers, Vance answers, Pam Bondi answers, Marco Rubio answers the same question. And then it turns to Stephen Miller, who, if you saw his earlier interaction, the dude just decimates them. It's very, very simple. The guy is an illegal immigrant in the country, and 2 judges said that he needed to go. They're kind of like, these aren't the droids you're looking for. He shouldn't have been in the country.
2 judges said that he was MS-13.
Yeah, and that he should be gone.
Already previously decided.
Already gone.
Yeah.
Already gone. And then they say, there's this, the great thing about this is everyone is watching this bullshit. Everyone's watching it. It's so plain, like you are trying to defend the scum of the earth. And now you care about parents and babies all of a sudden. Again, to your point earlier.
Only illegals.
That's darn it.
Illegals.
Darn it. But everyone's seen it, that the emperor has, no clothes. Everyone sees it. It's a beautiful thing.
It really is. I would encourage them to continue.
This is who the Democrats represent.
It is. It is.
Foreign illegal gang members. The media is calling him a Maryland man, a Maryland father.
Maryland father.
Kilmar Garcia. Not a very traditional Maryland name, I don't think. There's a great quote from Pat Buchanan, which kind of goes to the heart of what we're talking about, where he's talking about the LA riots and how a couple young police officers, 18 or 19 years old, went and restored peace to that area. And he said, it's force, rooted in justice, backed by moral courage. If you have that, that is what makes your society safe and clean again. And I hope that Trump takes a lesson from Bukele and cracks down on it here.
I think he will. I've really appreciated the relationship that they have formed thus far. All right, we've got to take another quick break. We'll get back with more, but I want to thank our sponsor of this segment, Angel Studios. They've got this new movie called King of Kings, and I want to read to you guys our very own Steve Dace. Let me read you his review really quick that he has. You guys didn't know I was going to do this, so you don't have it, but I do. My review of The King of Kings. I don't throw the term masterpiece around cavalierly, but if this isn't one of those, it's as close as you can get without being so. Bottom line, this is the best presentation of the gospel for children I have ever seen. The animation is state of the art, the quality of the storytelling is top notch, and the brilliance of seeing the greatest story ever told through the eyes of a child will give the adults faith like a child once again. He said, I cannot recommend this movie more highly. It's one of the best animated movies I have seen in years. Go get your tickets. All right. It's out now. You can get your tickets today at angel.com/Sarah. This is perfect for Easter, guys. Jesus's story as seen through a child. Bring your whole family Easter weekend, angel.com/Sarah. Well, Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have been getting awfully close lately. They keep traveling together. They're making all of these appearances together. I don't know if they're like gearing up for a very strange run, but they spent the weekend preaching anti-oligarchy politics while standing squarely in the center of the very system they claim to oppose. They were at Coachella. And they made this surprise appearance. They had all of these tens of thousands of festival goers, most of whom paid over $600 to get in. And nearly 60% of those people financed their tickets, according to Billboard. But here is some of Bernie. Watch.
We need you to stand up to fight for justice.
For justice for whom?
To fight for economic justice, social justice, and racial justice.
By that, do you mean the white men who are...
of the United States who... I agree. He thinks that climate change is a hoax.
Yeah.
He is dangerously wrong. And you and I...
He is so
you
embarrassing.
have to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and tell them to stop destroying this planet.
Boy, I think this traveling is wearing on him because that enthusiasm was not there. Now, it's just really rich to listen to this from Bernie Sanders because you remember, he used to always say the billionaires and the millionaires. He had to drop the millionaires because he is a millionaire. He's now worth about like $3 million. He has 3 houses. He makes 6 figures per year on book royalties, thanks to capitalism, by the way, Bernie. And he's in the 1% in financial terms, the very class he built his brand railing against, believe it or not. And then let me play for you guys AOC. And I want to get your thoughts. So here was AOC screeching about the oligarchy. We didn't have the oligarchy when it was George Soros who was funding everything, but now we have the oligarchy. And she's talking to all of these Gen Zers about, I never take money from lobbyists. Watch.
Oligarchy or democracy, but we cannot have both. Los Angeles,
we don't have either.
Choice. We must fight the oligarchy that has created this nightmare. And that is why I have never taken money from lobbyists or corporations, and it's why I never will.
The lie detector determined that was a lie from the Washington Examiner. While Ocasio-Cortez has harsh words for lobbyists, she has accepted donations from them every year since she first took office in 2018. So, you have to wonder when you're listening to these idiots talk about the oligarchy, who exactly is the oligarchy? I just...
Elon. That's what.
So it's like, but it wasn't George Soros and Alex Soros. So, like, it's only dark money when we do it, but when they do it, it's just fighting for democracy.
Even dark money. He's out there doing it in front of everybody. Elon Musk is out there going, I am doing this for the country.
Right.
It's not dark money at all. But who did they have? They had Zuckerberg. They had Soros. They had
all of them.
All of them.
Yep. All of them.
There's a really interesting graphic when you look at who donated to Trump versus Biden in 2020. The entire map, all of these institutional centers in America, Google, University of California, Amazon, the major corporations, all the universities, all the media, it's all blue. And then you know what's red? Is the New York Police Department, firefighters, and like caretakers. That's like the only, it's this tiny little part that's red. I encourage everybody to go look it up. It is an amazing graphic. But another point to this, the Democrats are hypocrites, obviously. We all know it. It's like, I get kind of tired of pointing out the Democrats' hypocrisy because they don't really care. Yeah. But one of the funny things about this was that AOC was flying to the End Oligarchy event in first class. So somebody got a picture of her in first class going to this End Oligarchy event.
You know what she would say? She would say, well, at least it wasn't private.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's very rich, but they're not against dark money or oligarchy or whatever. They're against us having any power at all. They are supposed to be our moral rulers. They know what's good for society. Anyone challenging them is a terrorist, an oligarch, you're a morally bad person if you don't believe in what they say. So again, it's all about power, but I'd like to see a little bit. Let's see if we return America to the actual American people, the historic American people. Watch how quickly the Democrats lose power. They do not want democracy for the American people whatsoever. That's what they've been fighting so hard against, actually. That's what the fight against Trump is, because he is he was kind of the last resort of the American people. They've been stomped on and abused for decades. They said, all right, F you. We just want somebody who's going to be a sledgehammer to the system. And that's why they elected Trump.
And you know what? They're also saying, like, let's fight against the fossil fuels. You're like, do you mean by burning down Tesla dealerships? Look,
no reasoning to it whatsoever.
It doesn't make sense, but the only reason why they're going after fossil fuels is because the oil guys fund conservatives. That's all it is. But now you got him in a jiu-jitsu like kind of checkmate, because the best producer of electric cars on the planet is the first. I was going to say the first dude.
First buddy.
The first buddy. Well, I mean, the first buddy.
You're the first buddy here.
Of here.
He's the first buddy of the White House.
It's just that they are so confused. Their message is so confused. And everyone's looking at, like, I'll be honest with you, nobody wants to fight anymore. Can we just have a little bit of time where we actually enjoy ourselves, like the 80s or, going into the 90s?
No, they're fun suckers. They're fun suckers. They hate fun. They don't want you to have fun. They want you to be miserable. Now, I will say, for Bernie's part, he at least has been consistent in his... No, I want to play a clip for you guys. He has at least been consistent in, not really in the sense that it's Donald Trump. No, it turns out Bernie has been long terrified of an oligarchy. Watch.
This great country of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more
1995.
Toward an oligarchy.
He predicted Donald Trump a long time ago.
We will move even more rapidly in the direction of an oligarchy. This great country
2014.
is evolving into an oligarchic society.
He hasn't changed.
He has been 250 years old
oligarchy,
this whole time.
And that is the system we are rapidly moving toward. This is a budget that moves our country rapidly into the direction of oligarchy. A handful of billionaires are moving this entire planet toward an oligarchic society.
Start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad.
2025.
And that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy.
Oh, no. It doesn't seem very rapid, because he's been calling for it since 1993, and it hasn't actually happened. I will at least say, I think that Bernie was born looking like Bernie was just born as an old
like
man.
that. He came out as a baby.
Yeah, he just came out like
Bernie. Like,
There's no oligarchy. We got fossil fuels.
that was
Mommy, I changed my diaper.
Mommy, oligarchy.
I think the last thing I'll say is I think the funny part on this is that what you were alluding to, the Democrats have their messages so disorganized, they have no idea what they're saying or what they're fighting for, that they're now trying to pivot back to this, like, we want like healthcare and like fair wages and this like class warfare stuff. No, you guys kind of revealed your hand. There's a classic clip of Bernie Sanders where he's up at a rally and he gets taken over by these screaming BLM protesters. They're screaming at him. They're going to say, we're going to shut down your event if you don't listen to us right now. They get up there and start just yelling at the crowd. Bernie just like falls back. He realizes this is what all of his democratic socialism gave rise to. Yeah. They have revealed their hand. The Democrats only care about turning your kid trans and importing as many Haitians as they can to your local community. They don't care about health care. It's not about like more fair wages or taking on big business. All they want is to turn as many kids trans as possible and to import a bunch of third worlders to your town. That's it. That's all they stand for.
The lie detector determined he was telling the truth.
No lies.
No lies detected.
They've already revealed themselves.
Yeah, no, they definitely have. All right, we've got to take a quick break, and then we will be back with more. Speaking of the trans, we'll get into it. But I do want to remind you guys, if you have not checked out our new Blaze Unlimited subscription, make sure you check it out. It comes with this new Frontier issue number 2 magazine, and you can go check them out at blazeunlimited.com/Sarah. Frontier issue 2 is out now, blazeunlimited.com/Sarah. So I would say that there are a lot of contrasts that you could make between the Trump and Biden presidencies, Trump version 2 and Joe Biden. But it just goes much deeper than border crossings or, men and women's sports. It's about bringing Christianity back into the culture. Because if you recall last Easter, Joe Biden issued a proclamation that it was Trans Visibility Day on Easter. And obviously, that was like, I feel like that was intentional. And you had the trannies who were like on the White House lawn celebrating things with the topless,
He put a pride flag next to the American flag.
Yes. Yeah. Was it pride or was it trans?
Progress. I don't know.
The one that's the all-inclusive. Yeah. It has the poop brown in it too.
Yeah. It's just going to be a brown flag eventually.
Like all the colors blend together and it's just poop, which is pretty symbolic when you think about it. So you had that happening during Easter weekend, and this year the Trump White House is declaring a Holy Week to recognize God's place in America and show Christians that they are accepted by President Trump. He released a statement: "This Holy Week, my administration renews its promise to defend the Christian faith in our schools, military, workplaces, hospitals, and halls of government. We will never waver in safeguarding the right to religious liberty, upholding the dignity of life, and protecting God in our public square." And it's just so refreshing. And I just, everything that this administration does, you look back and you're like, President Trump had to have the experiences that he had. I know that we talk about this all the time, but it's worth repeating. He had to have the 2 assassination attempts. He had to have the 91 indictments. He had to have these, felony counts where they're twisting and turning to try to create a crime where there wasn't really one. He had to have those things to grow closer in his walk with the Lord, because it really does show. This is not just talk from President Trump. This is a changed man who has grown deeper in his faith with Jesus Christ. And because of that, you get statements like these. And it's just so refreshing to see. It's just so there's something about it that is just so empowering and emboldening for everyone to be like, you know what? It's no longer uncool. Not that it was ever, you should care about what's cool and not cool when it comes to your religion, but it's like, we can talk about this now, and we're the majority, guys. We're the majority again. You don't get to shame us. I mean, you can try, but we don't care. And we have the president to signify that. It's just really refreshing to see.
To me, this is almost the greatest thing he's done.
Yeah.
He's declared Holy Week, Holy Week. I mean, because, I mean, I'm sitting here watching my former country just go down the Swanee, as they say, just go down the toilet because they've abandoned their Christian morals and values.
Yeah, the Church of England's crazy, some of the stuff they're putting out.
It's absurd. And, you know, people try to make the argument that if you are secular, you can have the same morals and values. But that might be true, but they're not tethered to anything. It's not based on anything. So therefore,
you're not as incentivized for sure.
You're not. And but also, if you look at the UK, what they're doing now is they're saying that all religions are equal. All religions, you know, and they're like, oh, whatever, that religion doesn't matter, you know, because Christianity doesn't matter. And but it's not true. And so what you're seeing is the insanity and the tyranny that comes. So for me personally, as an immigrant and obviously as a Christian, but this to me is amazing. It really is like rooting America. And America always was rooted in its Christian faith, right? But the president saying it is just like, oh, it almost gives you approval to go out and say, if you know what I mean. Like,
and again, I understand it. Exactly, and that's why I want to clarify that. I'm not saying that you need it. I'm just saying to have the president standing behind you, giving you permission is just, there's just something so unlike any other. And I want to play. Let me just to add to the point here. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Do you think that in the former Biden administration, would you have seen Press Secretary Jen Psaki, of course, the poor man's peppermint patty, or White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, would you have seen them do something like this before a press briefing?
Lord Jesus, please give us the strength, the knowledge, the ability to articulate our words, to have fun, and be confident in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay.
It's phenomenal.
I know.
It's phenomenal. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that, you know, back a few decades ago, it was kind of cool to be like the atheist railing against like these religious kooks, these right wingers. Mm-hmm. They have no idea what they're talking about. Turns out pretty much everything that they predicted came to pass about all the moral degeneracy and depravity that happens when you remove Christianity from the public square. It turns out, like, if you're not allowed to honor your God, people just by their religious nature have to participate in something higher. Yeah. And so if it's not God, if it's not Jesus, then it's going to be a trans flag, right, or a career criminal, or all these things, or Ukraine.
Right.
You know, so it's very good. I hope that they continue it, but kudos to Trump for that.
By the way, former White House praying to something, not God.